With that, I would ask the applicant and/or its representative to please introduce themselves and begin their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jim Loughlin, an attorney here in town. My office is on North Main Street. I'm here in town on behalf of Proton International. With me on your screen, whom you can see, are Pete Carbone. He's with Proton International. That's the applicant. Andrew P. White is with Ty and Bond, the engineers on the project. Their local offices are in Middletown and Belton. Paul Rushton, he's an architect on the project. He's in the UK. Frank Labus, he's also an architect. And Paula Williams is on the telephone. This would-be use is a proposed cancer treatment center. State-of-the-art with top-shelf partners. State-of-the-art technology would be radiation therapy, surgery done with protons instead of photons. Protons are heavier. This heavier particulate matter provides for more precise surgical, less of a spray, sort of like with your flashlight. When you flash it at night, there's the spray. With the heavier particulate matter, it's more precise in its surgery that allows for better efficiency and better surgery that also has less of an adverse impact, less collateral damage on the surrounding tissue and organs. There is a superconductor on site, one of only 63 in the whole world. Proton International is involved as a participant in 7 of those projects. It would be some 27 or 28,000 square foot building with 1 treatment room. The partners are Yale New Haven Health and Hartford Hospital, Hartford Healthcare. Yale New Haven and Hartford Hospital together with Proton International right here in Wallingford. Its location is at the intersection of Interstate 91 and Route 68, adjacent to the north from the Marriott. It's a fully taxable building that will generate nominal traffic. For bookkeeping purposes, it's in an I-5 zone. We're fully compliant so far as a use. It's an outpatient medical facility. All bulk restrictions are met, meaning that our setbacks and our height restrictions have all been satisfied. We did apply for a variance with the ZBA and it was granted. It was a parking variance where we are permitted 50 parking spaces where somewhere between 112 and 116 are required. This significant reduction was granted for several reasons. Number 1, to protect the aquifer beneath the property. Number 2, to preserve the trees, which are in keeping with the campus-like setting under the comprehensive plan. And in addition, it resulted in a reduction of 20,000 square feet of impervious surface. Namely, the parking lot was reduced by that much. It is in the Aquifer Protection District. We met with the Water Division twice, face-to-face, at a roundtable with other departments. Eric Kruger had no objection, and he spoke in favor of the variance. His memo that's been included in the materials, there is no stated objection, and rather he just goes into the routine list of matters that should be covered during construction and implementation. We're proceeding under the site plan section of this of the zoning regulation because we are beneath the 100 peak hour vehicle trips. This is based on traffic estimates under the Institute of Transportation Engineers. That's the authority cited in your regulation. In addition, we are basing our traffic on our own use. There are 4 other sites like this that Proton International participates in that show that we will have 24 employees at most in any given part of the day. On the less active part of the day, there will be no more than 13 employees. In addition, because there's only 1 treatment room, we will have no more than 3 or 4 patients on site at any given time. So 24 plus 4 is 28, which rounds up to 30. So that when we were asking for 50 spaces, that was actually much more than we needed. And that's one of the reasons why we were granted the variance. In turn, that reflects on the amount of traffic that we're going to be generating on a daily basis. This is minimal. There is no traffic study necessary. Compared to the other uses that are permitted in this zone, this is a very user-friendly one. We haven't included any signage plans because we aren't quite certain of a lot of the details on the inside or how they will apply on the outside, since we're between 91, 68, and Northrop Road. There are 3 major roads involved, so we don't know exactly what signage we will need. So we'll be back with you either for approval in front of your staff, or we may be speaking again with you. We met with Aaron and the Wetlands Commission, and they approved us in one meeting. They worked well with us. Everybody at staff with Wetlands and Water, and Tom and Amy were all great to work with. They met with us a bunch of times. And finally, I think we've satisfied, we responded to all of the comments in Mr. Talbot's letter, which were very helpful. I tried my best in my letter, but also substantively, Andrew White included the changes in his plans, which were recently submitted. Before we move on to Andrew, if we could take a look at the photograph, Mr. Chairman, if you could include Andrew White as a presenter. A picture speaks 1,000 words.
Excuse me, Mr. White, you should have the wheel right now.
Okay. There is a rendering coming in from Northrop Road. Architecturally, we have 3 architects on staff who are here tonight who could comment better than I can. It's a pastoral setting. We've preserved as much of the trees as possible. Everything in its design is to ease the entrance of the cancer patient from Northrop Road into the facility. You'll see the atrium there is full height and it's glass. And the waiting area there is really well sunlit. In addition, there will be some visibility from I-91 that'll also make travel to the site a lot easier. It's 2 stories. All entrances are on the 1st floor. The pastoral setting on the outside is designed to relax the patient, ease of access, and then the layout in the inside during the waiting period and the only 1 treatment room is all designed to cater to the patient. And again, please direct any questions you might have on the design to the architects, because obviously my knowledge is limited. Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. If there are no more questions for me, I'd like to move on to Andrew White.
Thank you, Jim. I'll now walk you through the site itself. As Attorney Loughlin mentioned earlier, our site is located north of the Marriott. It is on Northrop Road, north of Route 68, and west of Interstate 91. All access from to the site will be via the exit ramp to the south of the property and then north onto Northrop Road. The existing site is 11.79 acres, most entirely wooded. There's a man-made drainage swale that runs north to south through the site. For your orientation, north is oriented to the right of your screen. There are a series of catch basins on Northrop Road that discharge onto the site. Approximately 90% of the site stormwater, any rainwater that hits the site now, comes down to a culvert located on the south edge of our property, just 24-inch pipe that goes beneath the Marriott's parking lot. A small corner of the site discharges directly to 91. the site plan itself for the remainder of these sheets north will be to the top of your screen with Northrop Road on the left-hand side. As we mentioned before, we received a parking variance for 50 parking spots. We have our site driveway off of Northrop Road. It comes to the front of the building. The front entrance is located on the north. Majority of the parking is located to the east, as well as additional 9 spaces in the north, and then 2 loading spaces for additional spaces to the west. The sidewalks will come in off the parking lot, surround the entire building. There is a generator, transformer, dumpsters on the west side of the site, screened by a screening wall to the north, so they're not visible to patients as they're entering the site. And there will be a canopy at the front entrance and a drop-off area that's this highlighted cyan color on this drawing. Site grading, well, I didn't color this one up, is very nominal. We're between 4 and 2% slopes throughout the parking lot. There is 3 to 1 slopes on the west side of the site, as well as slopes surrounding the site, swales. In addition, in talking with the water department, we have provided sand filters to meet their stormwater requirements, which I'll now discuss in a bit more detail in the stormwater design. So this site, as I mentioned earlier, has a drainage swale running north to south. We're proposing to intercept that drainage swale through a 24-inch culvert to route that through our driveway and then discharge about 100 feet north of the existing 24-inch culvert at the south end of the property. Per Wallingford Water Department regulations, we have 2 stormwater systems. We have storm drains that collect exclusively landscaped areas, which are in the dark blue, that discharge the swales ultimately to the 24-inch pipe. And then we have the drainage system highlighted in cyan, which is picking up paved areas and go to 2 sand filters, as well as water quality hydrodynamic separators per the aquifer watershed protection requirements. The building itself is treated as clean water and has a subsurface underground infiltration system, and the parking, the rainwater discharge from the parking surfaces after the sand filter goes to its own underground infiltration system. So for this project, we are reducing peak flow offsite and volumetric runoff offsite, and there will be no impact downstream. Utilities for the building are all fed off of Northrop Road. From 2 utility poles, we have redundant tel data service that comes down and enters the building. We have our primary electric off of one of the poles as well that comes into an on-site transformer. There will be a generator located on site for emergency backup power, as this is a medical facility. We have water and fire protection on 2 laterals off of Northrop Road that come down and enter the building. We'll also have a fire department connection for a fire truck to boost the sprinkler systems within the building, as well as on-site fire hydrant. Sanitary sewage from the building will exit to the north and will connect to the existing sanitary sewer in Northrop Road. During the construction process, we have fully compliant state of Connecticut soil erosion control methods. For this project, due to the presence of that drainage swale, we have broken our soil erosion controls into 2 phases. The first phase, as shown here, is for stripping stripping the site of its organic topsoil and protecting the swale and access to the site. We have 2 temporary sediment traps shown in this first phase, one for our stockpiling activity, the second for a majority of the tree cutting and clearing, as well as hay bale check dams in the drainage swale and silt fence construction entrances, and even temporary timber swamp mats for vehicular traffic of the drainage swale. For the second phase of soil erosion control, this is as the building is more advanced. As the foundation goes in, the first sediment trap would be decommissioned after the culvert is installed, as swale is bypassed, and the site begins to be raised. The second sediment trap stays for the north area, and we have stockpiling within the parking area as it's flattened out, and then perimeter controls throughout the site to maintain any silt and sediment coming off the site. For landscape, as this loads, we are proposing a restoration seed mix for a majority of the grassed areas around the site, with a more manicured 6-foot strip along the drive aisle and parking. We have a forested restoration area to the north, where we're going to be seeding trees and shrubs to the north, as well as aggressive tree planting to the northwest from where we had our utilities coming into the site, and then a mixture of specimen trees and plantings along the north face and all the sides of the building, as well as landscape within the parking above and beyond the landscape criteria set by zoning, because we want the client particularly wanted a more manicured look in the parking lot, and to break up, even though it's less than 50 spots in the eastern lot, break up a parking lot feel for this experience. And our last plan I'll show you is our lighting plan. We have poles located around the lot to provide approximately 1-foot candle average lights around the driveway and building, as well as decorative light bollards as you're coming down. And then the front landscape area will have little 10-inch tall little bollards along the front walk to provide some additional ambiance lighting, not so much as site lighting. And that is the project in a nutshell. I'd love to open it up to any questions from the commissioners.
And again, Attorney Loughlin, I take it at this moment, this is the extent of your presentation. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, good. All right, so at this point in time, I would open this up to questions from commission members. And again, we will start off with, we'll do it this time with Mr. Vinoy.
No comment.
Thank you. Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. I think it's a very interesting design, but as you were going through the presentation, I was trying to determine the front of the building, because Wallingford has a building orientation zoning requirement, and it looks as if the building is askew on the lot. Is that, am I, I have plans here as well, but I saw your presentation. Where is the front, and is it facing Northford, or is it on the side view of Northford?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Sorry. The front of the building, if you can see my cursor here, is oriented to the north. So this protrusion of the building here, where the car canopy is the main entrance. So as you're coming north on Norfolk Road and take a right into the site, you have a line of sight directly to the front face of the building, which is the view that was shown in the rendering. So that, while the building is not directly perpendicular to the road, along your line of sight entering the property, you have a direct view of the front of the building.
I guess my thought would be, I would envision the majority of the traffic would be coming from the other direction. You wouldn't be getting much coming from Northrop to 68 to be coming off 68 onto Northrop.
Correct.
Yeah. I guess if I could, Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Talbot, I mean, is this plan in conformance with our zoning, building orientation?
Tom, you're on mute.
I would say substantially it is. I think it meets the general intent of the regulation. I understand your concern that it's not lining up directly with the street. This is a regulation that this is the first time I've encountered this regulation here in Wallingford. That kind of regulation, front entrances, that's usually something, that's more of an urban regulation where everything's along the street, you're trying to orient along the street. Here, you're a couple of hundred feet off the street. So I think generally it does comply. It complies with the intent.
Okay.
Where, I mean, without moving the building, where else would you put, I mean, seriously, without moving the building, where would you put the entrance to make it more in compliance, I guess would be what I would say. Does that make sense?
It does, and I appreciate your comments, Tom. I think my concern was just, I know we had put that reg in the books just just a couple of years ago, and it was because of retail. There was a retail application that eschewed the building, but this is, you're right, it's a pastoral setting. I mean, the applicant said it themselves. I don't want to be saying, well, we approved it, but it doesn't conform. If your position is it substantially conforms, I tend to agree. It's just angled differently, and it's not going to be a straight angle. So
I would say if it was, other than from looking at the plan, where we're looking at the plan, if it was to the left, the left side, I guess, south side, you could say that it's more in compliance, but it's not at all in the spirit of in the intent of the regulation. And the other two sides, not at all.
Yeah.
So, like I said, this is situations like this, you kind of have to do the best you can with that regulation, I think. I mean, because you referred to retail, it's not just an urban thing, it's also a highway thing.
Right. All right, thank you, Tom. Then my only other comments, Mr. Chairman, are I had nothing further. I appreciate the fact that they went to the ZBA in this situation to get a variance to have reduced parking, which is a very unique thing. So I appreciate your explanation. I appreciate you doing that, because we don't need more blacktop where you don't need it. So I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I do have a couple of comments and questions. I am in favor of this. This looks like a great design. I did have the same exact concern as Mr. Fitzsimmons, and based on Mr. Talbot's explanation and the orientation where it is, I'm fine with that. I think this is going to be a great addition to Wallingford, low impact usage. And if I could be so bold, I guess, is to ask, I know you guys looked at several other locations. Why Wallingford? What attracted you to Wallingford?
Peter?
Can't hear you.
Sir, I'm afraid we can't hear you. Again, we still cannot hear you. It appears your microphone is on, but we can't hear you.
Maybe the volume needs to be turned up.
Yeah, I think, sir, if you can turn your volume up because we're not able to hear you. I can see your lips moving and I can see your microphone is lit green, but and we still have the same problem. I'm not certain if there may be another member of the applicant that would like to address that question.
I'll venture a guess. It's a favorable location because it's visibility from 91. It's halfway between Hartford and New Haven, which is Yale New Haven and Hartford Hospital, and halfway between Boston and New York. All these factors have been with Wallingford for a long time now. And the utility rates are very, very good. I hope that's what Peter was going to say. And funny thing, this was going to be the first opportunity for him to speak at a meeting. And he, well, sorry.
I see Peter has shaken his head that he's in agreement.
Yeah, thanks. I'm in total agreement with that assessment. I do have one other question. And this is for Andrew, I guess the architect. I go by this site many times a week, and I'm not sure what the previous use of this property was. And there is a stone gate located almost on Northrop on the southern edge. And I think it's kind of where your driveway is going in. And I'm not sure if you've ever seen it. But again, I don't know if it has any historical value. It's a section of a real nice stone kind of gate entrance, and I think there's some remnants of some other stonework on the property. And I'm just wondering if you've seen it and if it's worth saving.
I think I will answer that if I may. My name is Paul Rushton. I'm the Director of Design for Proton International, based in the UK. So greetings from the motherland, everybody. We are aware of the post. I think it is just a simple stone post. It's slightly away from where we are looking to develop, and we're just going to keep it as is. We're not going to take it down. We're respectful of the history that post may have. And we don't know any further history than the fact that it's there and it exists, but we're certainly not, we do not intend to take it away. But yes, we are aware and we have seen it.
Okay, great. Again, I think this is a great application. I think it's what you're doing, the design, I like it, and I think it'd be a great addition to Wallingford. So, good luck, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me now. I think I fixed the microphone. You can hear me.
Well, I take it, sir. I take it, sir. Though you, Mr. Loughlin, essentially said what you'd like to say, or would you like to add some additional comments?
It was right on. It was exactly. We're very happy to be here. It's been a joy working with your staff. We love the property. It's great that it's adjacent to a hotel because that helps when our patients do need to have a place to stay. Better than right next door. And then our partners have been fantastic to deal with. They really want us here too. So it really has all worked out.
That's great. Again, thank you, and this will be a success. Great establishment. Thank you.
Mr. Matarazzo, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's going to be a great addition to Wallingford. Everybody's knows somebody or is afflicted some way with cancer, and I can get behind this project wholeheartedly. I have family members that have been affected, and I think it's going to be a great project and a great addition to Wallingford. I have no problems with the orientation, and as Mr. Fitzsimmons knows, I've brought up orientation of buildings along our Colony Road, Route 5. I don't know if that's the regulation, you were referring to, Mr. Fitzsimmons. I didn't know if that, I thought we had set that up and it only referred to structures along the Colony Road, Route 5 corridor. I didn't think it branched out into the outer areas of Wallingford, but I don't have a problem with the orientation. I think it's a great looking building, and landscaping looks in keeping, and I'm definitely behind it.
Thank you, Mr. Matarazzo. I think Mr. Talbot has somewhat confirmed your reference to that regulation, although you should be well aware of it, as we indicated, that was the Matarazzo regulation. But moving on, Mr. Hyde. And any questions for the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions. I just want to express my excitement for the project. I think this is perfect for the area, perfect for Wallingford. And I just want to welcome you and wish you success. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Allenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also don't have any questions. I just want to say that I think the applicant and his attorney did an excellent job in the presentation. It was extremely thorough and very well informative. The project looks outstanding. And again, I am also excited for it. Thank you.
Thank you. And from my perspective, not to be redundant, I certainly agree with the comments that the various commissioners made. Certainly appreciate you gentlemen choosing Wallingford to put this this building in. I do have just one thing, and it's really somewhat of a minor point. When I was just looking at your chart on the parking for, you know, what you're providing, you've indicated you have 50 car parking spaces plus 4 handicap, so that would be 54. And I'll be the darn, when I totaled everything up, I only came up with 52. And I do have a question just in a required and permitted. For car parking, you have 116, and I know you received the variance, and you have that delta with the 2 in it. And I see that in several places on the plans. I'm just curious what that reference is. And again, just to clarify the number of parking spaces.
Yes, absolutely. So actually, the number of parking spaces in total is 50 by my last count. The way that we do parking calculations, handicap is not on, or accessible spaces is not on top of the required number. It is a part of the number. And sometimes you get into a discrepancy where if you go over by 1 spot, you add a handicap spot, you have to add another one because you hit the threshold. But in this instance, it is just 50 in total. We were only required to provide 2 per zoning regulations, but due to the nature of being a medical facility, we opted to provide 4, since the use will certainly be there. And then the delta with a 2 corresponds to a second revision. So we were at the wetlands hearing last week, and we were coordinating with Erin O'Hare in her department, as Attorney Loughlin had referenced earlier in the presentation. And due to our coordination with them, there was 1 set of drawing revisions that was issued as Delta 1. And then in our continued correspondence with Tom Talbot in his office and the town engineer, there were some additional minor comments that were brought. And so these were classified under revision 2, which is the latest and greatest that we have submitted.
Okay, but again, I don't mean to belabor the point, but when and maybe I'm missing 2 spaces, but when, I total, the spaces eliminating the parking, just for a second here, I only come up with 48. I guess just to make it easy, and maybe I'm missing 2 spaces. But when I'm looking at the front of the, when I'm looking at the, you know, it's your plans, which would be the front of the building, to the left, you have 9 spaces. Then there's 2, then there's 4, then there would be 20 spaces by eliminating the handicap, and then 13. Again, maybe I'm.
So the handicap are included in those 50, as I said earlier. So the circles on the plan on the screen with the number in them is indicative of the number of spots within a row. So proceeding right here at the number 12, 3, an additional 3 is 6, another 4 is 10, and then the 2 handicap is 12. Additionally, the same thing on the other side, another 12. And then on the far eastern row is another 13. So by my count, that is 37 spots in the eastern lot. 9 spots along the frontage. 9 spots brings us up to 46. And then you have the 4 additional parking spaces on the west side of the building, which brings you to 50. And then we have the 2 loading spots, which are not considered parking spots.
Oh, okay, that's my error. I was looking at those as parking spaces.
Okay.
I apologize for that, and I apologize for dragging this on.
No trouble. Happy to answer the question.
Good. Thank you. Okay, this, you know, is not a public hearing, but we do allow members of the public to comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment? I noticed that Mr. Ryan had made a comment that he may want to comment on the gate being referred to. I'm not sure if Mr. Ryan would like to do that or if he would like to make any comments on the application. So, Mr. Ryan, you'd like to speak? You may speak.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to confirm that you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Very good. Well, I want to just thank the commission for what appears to be their overwhelming support of this application. This has been a journey of several years. It's coming to fruition this evening. I also want to thank Mr. Carboni, who has been absolutely fantastic to work with. He has delivered every item on time, in detail, has worked very well with not only myself, but other members of the town staff. And as has been echoed already, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for Wallingford for all of the reasons that have already been stated. So I'll keep it short. It's great. I think it's been 2.5 years, Peter, and it's great to see us come to this point, and we're almost home. So again, I anticipate and thank the commission for their overwhelming support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any other members of the public that would like to comment on the application? I don't see any, and I don't see that there are any callers that are on the line. So with that, I would again bring it back to the applicant. If the applicant would like to make any final comments, certainly you're not obliged to. So I leave that with the applicant.
I think we're set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and I take it all commission members are have no further questions. That being said, at this point, I would entertain a motion on the application.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve application 221-20, site plan application for Proton International for a 27,810 square foot outpatient medical treatment facility on 11.82 acres as shown on plans entitled Connecticut Proton Therapy Center Outpatient Facility, Proton International, 932 Northrop Road, dated December 1st, 2020, revised to January 6, 2021, subject to 1, comments in an interoffice memorandum from Eric Kruger, Senior Engineer, Water and Sewer Division, to Aaron O'Hare, Environmental Planner, CC to Tom Talbot, Planner, dated January 5th, 2021. Two, comments and interoffice memorandum from the fire marshal to the planning and zoning department dated December 18th, 2020. Comments and interoffice memorandum from Aaron O'Hare, environmental planner, to Thomas Talbot, planner, listing all conditions of Inland Wetlands Commission approval, A20-12.1 dated January 8th, 2021. All conditions of this approval to be incorporated into application for site plan application 221-20 with the exception of condition number 1 bonding. Number 4, comments and interoffice memorandum from Eric Kruger, senior engineer, water and sewer division, to Thomas Talbot, planner dated January 7th, 2021. And 5, sediment and erosion control bond of $30,000.
Thank you, Mr. Benoit. We have a motion on the application. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons, voting beginning with Mr. Benoit.
Yes.
Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Yes.
Mr. Cohan.
Yes.
And Mr. Matarazzo.
Yes.
And I vote yes, your application, gentlemen, has been approved, and I think as other commission members had mentioned, as well as Mr. Ryan, we certainly appreciate you folks choosing Wallingford and look forward to having you as good corporate citizens. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it brings us down to number 7, extension. I've been informed by Mr. Talbot there is no action requested on that at this point in time. Going down to reports of officers and staff, number 9 is the ZBA notice for January 19th, 2021. Anyone with questions on the various applications? Seeing no one interested in commenting, we'll drop down to our zoning enforcement log, and I will note that Amy Torrey is here on the call. So again, anyone with questions on the zoning enforcement log? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I've been asking about, 12 and 15 Windswept Road, the Paradise Hills winery, and I think Ms. Story attached some, list of activities. But I was just wondering what, currently the status was. This goes back, 2016. It looks like the last update. So I'm just wondering, yes, it's been on the books for a while.
And Mrs. Torrey, would you like to comment, please?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. I was having some camera here, but not audio. Regarding the Paradise Hills and the 12 Windswept Hill, Mrs. Hand had been sort of dealing with that to her departure. However, I can speak to most of the issues were regarding some special events and some special conditions surrounding those events. There's be some recording or reporting earlier of something upcoming, the amount of attendees and the date and the specifics and the details of said events. Whether that has occurred with the pandemic sort of entering in, I don't believe, we're not aware, let's put it that way, that those events have occurred. And certainly COVID has altered the nature of business and extracurricular activity, if you will. But that was the nature of the violations, was making sure they adhered to, they had a certain amount, and I can't respond being to the number that they were permitted per year. The violation, they were limited to a certain number with a 30-day notification, etc. And those had either occurred or been in violation thereof in a period of time. So that does need to be revisited, as does many of the habitual sort of violations, recurring through 2020, because there has been a separate set of circumstances, involved this year.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, it brings us down to just administrative approvals. We have the change of use for Barnes Homestead, 235 New Cheshire Road, change of use Termini at 237 Hall Avenue, and a survey waiver for Baker at 4 Union Street. So with that, I think that we have covered all of our agenda items. I will just suggest that at our last meeting, we had talked about looking at our food truck regulations, perhaps, allowing them at wineries and other uses. I know we all had indicated that we wanted to spend a bit more time reviewing the regulations, reviewing the perhaps was being proposed. So I would ask commission members prior to our next meeting, if people would direct their attention to that and just come up with some ideas as far as what we would like or not like to do, with respect to the food trucks. So if no one has any further comments that they'd like to make, and I don't see any, I would certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn the Planning and Zoning Commission for Monday, January 11th, 2021.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Fitzsimmons, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed and abstentions? We're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Night.